I actually put mine on like a month or so ago, and saw cracked stuff on the inside now.
I was gonna say it would be so hard.
Yeah, well, there was a baseball in it at least, but like,
And we are live. Welcome to the MLB Strategy Show. It is Friday, June 30th. I am Josh Engleman. I'm joined by Adam Scherer. We are brought to you by Prize Picks. I'm wearing it all, by the way. Shirt, hat, fully decked out in Prize Picks gear. Need to send me the underwear and the shorts, and I can complete this entire getup. I'll be looking like a Prize Picks UPS driver. Anyway, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter. Handles are below our bodies. Adam, what's up?
how's it going? Anything good for you yesterday?
Not close, like yes and no. I know you and I were both in and around it for the early slate that tumbled a little bit. I think I had 3 top 1%ers for the main slate last night. I think I got to like 20th or something. You would think, well, like once the Dodgers started going crazy, that kind of changed up the game for me a little bit. But for the amount of Scherzer, who was Bassett? Yeah, Bassett, and then and Cleveland that I had, I would have assumed that I was doing a lot better before that Dodgers game started, and I wasn't.
I mean, I lost probably 60% on the night slate last night. My 2 highest owned pitchers were Scherzer, Bassett. Third was Wynn, who was fine. My 2 highest owned stacks were Houston and the Dodgers. And I got crushed.
I didn't have as much Dodgers, but I had what I thought pre-lock, I haven't gone back to look, was like 2x Cleveland. But even before that Dodgers game started, like I didn't have a lot of stuff that was drawing to a victory at that point in time. So that was kind of mildly frustrating, but it's cool. 3 in the top 1%. I can't complain. It's been a good week.
I forgot it was a 5-game slate too. I was just kind of I was looking through my lineups just now. I was like, man, why didn't I play so many popular players? And then I was like, oh, it was a 5-game slate. So these lineups that have like 3 guys that were 5% owned are actually pretty contrarian.
Yeah. I'm excited for today's slate. Nice balanced-ish 12-gamer. We still have cores, but we don't have Dodgers cores. The dynamic of cores today is very interesting because the Tigers are on the opposite end. I think they're a fascinating talking point for cores. This is a different kind of cores than when you put an all-star team there.
Yeah, I assume they're also $2,000 across the board.
They have a decent value for today. That much I can say. You ready to just dive into this?
Yeah, so I thought I had changed the date on the lineups I was looking at, but I hadn't. I was like, these are like the exact same prices as yesterday.
Because they are.
Yesterday.
Fair enough. Well, oh man, it's July tomorrow. I didn't think about that.
No, it's not. Oh yeah, it is. Never mind. I was thinking it was July now, and there's 31 days in July.
Woof. Anyway, well, at least we get MMA tomorrow. I haven't looked at the card or anything yet to see if it's a good UFC card or not for it.
Yeah,
for DFS, that is. I don't really care about the fights themselves. And then I'll probably play a little PGA Showdown round 3. That's the fun one to me.
Yeah,
Saturdays are sort of like a blind day.
Yeah, I took today off Showdown. I was just really tired last night and didn't want to wake up this morning to deal with it. But yeah, I'll be back for that tomorrow.
Love it. All right, let's get into this stuff. Orioles and Twins. Your Orioles here. 4.4 run implied total for the O's. 4.5 for the Twins. Dean Kramer and Pablo Lopez. Comparable ownership in that. Dean Kramer is 19% owned at 8,100, and Pablo Lopez is 19% owned at 9,900. As you look at it now, which pitcher stands out more to you, if at all?
I think they're comparable. I kind of like the Kramer price tag more.
Same.
When you factor in the matchup and everything. My concern here, because Lopez obviously has been better than Kramer this year. Like he deserves to be more expensive. But Lopez has had a massive gap in strikeout percentage, righties versus lefties. 34% of righties, 25% of lefties. So again, he's good against lefties, but you're going to get a left-handed heavy lineup here in a good park for left-handed power from Baltimore. Minnesota, strikes out against everybody. Kramer's not nearly as good a strikeout pitcher, 22.5% to righties, 18% to lefties. Yeah, they're both, I guess just like correctly priced to me.
I prefer Kramer to Lopez. Better strikeout matchup, obviously better price. I think the Twins are. I think the Orioles' offense is probably a hair better than the Twins, but maybe not. I don't know. Lopez is good, but 9,900. Like, I feel like he's priced more appropriately than Dean Kramer for this spot.
For what it's worth, active roster against right-handed pitching this year: Baltimore 115 WRC plus, 5th in baseball. Minnesota 106, 13th in baseball.
That works for me.
188 ISO for Baltimore, 175 for the Twins, 28.2% K percentage for the Twins, 21.1 for Baltimore.
Yeah, right now I have very little Lopez and basically the field's worth of Dean Kramer. There are 2 other pitchers in and around Lopez that I just prefer more, that we will get to.
The main thing those ownership numbers tell me is that I'm not going to like a lot of pitching on this slate.
Yeah, you're not. As best I can tell, it doesn't look great out there. There are some things that I have that I hope go away by the time we get to lock.
Yeah, because my first take at both of those prices is like, yeah, whatever. If I get there, it's fine. But yeah, I don't really want to.
Yeah, I'm not really excited to have 18% of Dean Kramer.
Right. Against a team with power in Camden Yards. Yeah, pretty scary. But yeah, I mean, looking at the rest of the pitchers today, it's one of those where there are some good pitchers going, but they tend to be in tough matchups. Bryce Miller against Tampa, Gray against Houston, Paxton against Toronto, McClanahan's super expensive. So yeah, I mean, it's anybody that's decent and in a decent matchup is going to look pretty good.
I'll ask how you feel about the offenses here. It seems like we should talk Twins first. They're 8th in ownership, 11th in our top stack tool, 8th in top value. No real ownership coming in the grand scheme of things. 8% owned is the highest hitter on either side. Do you like the Twins? Do you like the Orioles? To me, it's more of a pass, but probably leaning a little bit towards Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're 2 middle-of-the-road stacks. I do lean toward Minnesota. Kramer does give up more power than Lopez does. So far this season, lefties in particular, 259 expected ISO against Kramer, 407 expected WOBA, and then you're getting this park that plays up left-handed power as well. Julian is assuming he's leading off, 3,100. Kirilloff is cheap at 2,900. Kepler and Gallo are going to look good. That's not to say you can't go to Buxton, Correa, Lewis. Obviously you can, but right-handed power doesn't play as well in Camden Yards. 188 expected ISO to righties from Kramer this year. So I do like that you have some left-handed power on Minnesota, and then you can certainly balance it out with the good righties. On the Baltimore side, it's more so just saying like, hey, they do have a lot of left-handed power. This is a good park for it. Lopez this year, like I said, 25% K percentage to lefties, 148 expected ISO, 311 expected WOBA. It's more the Orioles have good hitters that can do damage, but it's more so like if they come through, it's just because they are good, whereas it actually looks good for Minnesota.
Rank the game.
Man. Kramer, Lopez, Twins, Orioles.
Yeah, if I'm doing it based on what I have, it's Kramer, Twins, Lopez, Orioles.
Yeah, no issues with that one. I think the Orioles are last.
I agree.
And to be clear, I think they still have a high ceiling, but I think they're last.
All right, we'll move on to game 2. Pirates and Brewers, 4-run implied total for the Pirates, 4.7 for the Brewers. Osvaldo Bido going for the Pirates. Freddie Peralta going for Milwaukee. Bido is 5% owned at 7,800. Freddie Peralta, 9,700, 19% owned. I'm curious your thoughts on Freddie Peralta, because he is the first of the pitchers that we're going to talk about that I have a pretty big stand on.
Yeah, it seems like one of the better pitching spots when you just look at who's on the slate and who they're facing. The Pirates, no Brian Reynolds, so actually I think he's back, so take that one away. But still not not the best offense. 3.9 implied run total in Pittsburgh. Peralta's a good enough pitcher, 25.5% K percentage this year, 4.25 xFIP, 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. Hasn't been quite as dominant as he has at times in the past, but still gets strikeouts. 28% strikeout percentage to righties, 23% to lefties. It's not that he's perfect or that there isn't any risk here, but it does look like one of the better spots.
Yeah, I have him bigly right now. He is my most exposed pitcher. And I think it's just sort of a combination of lack of home run power or lack of park factor there. 91 for righty power in Pittsburgh really limits Freddie Peralta there. Helps out a little bit. Lefties are limited as well. I think he's just sort of the best option at the top, combination wise, of price and matchup. And I think that's what's pulling him the most. Like, compare Freddie Peralta to Lopez. How do you feel between the two?
Right. So I was going to say, like, we have Lopez slightly higher than Peralta. We have similar ownership, and I don't think that's crazy or anything. And obviously, like, that's all data based and not me just off the top of my head saying what I think. But like, Peralta against the Pirates feels better than Lopez against the Orioles in Baltimore.
Yeah. When I look at those two things, it's just like, okay, I would rather have more Freddie Peralta. That's not an indictment on Lopez or anything. It just feels better. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know how to describe it any other way.
Yeah. And like, the ownership gap between Peralta and Lopez wouldn't have to get that big to where I would say, like, okay, I'll just take Lopez here.
Yep.
But, you know, at essentially the same price tag, a little bit cheaper for Peralta, he looks better than Lopez to me. So the fact that they're getting the same ownership does make me prefer Peralta.
All righty. Beto on the opposite side. Is there anything worth saying here?
I don't really think so. He's the one you and I have dug into a bit before, where his recent numbers in the minors are much different than they were for most of his time in the minors. So I do think that there's a chance that projection systems are underestimating him. So far, the strikeout stuff's carried over in the majors as well. 25% K percentage through his first 3 starts. The price tags come up. I think that's the biggest issue. If you were getting him at like 6,500 or something, I would definitely be interested. 7,800, you're kind of paying for. You're paying a price that is more in line with his recent minor league performances and limited major league time. He's still not projecting that well because, again, he just seems like a new pitcher, which is always tough for projection systems. It is a high upside matchup against Milwaukee, but at that price, I think it's still pretty tough to get to.
Yeah, he's a problem for me right now just because Steamer doesn't seem to believe in him, which is leading me to the Brewers.
This, to me, like we talk about it a lot in NBA, like the hardest thing I think to quantify is when you know a player is banged up, but they're playing and you don't know like what to do with their projection. This is like the equivalent of that in baseball, is when you can very clearly tell a pitcher has changed what they're doing and is different than they were for a lot of the preceding seasons. But projection models are always going to be factoring in those preceding seasons, and they should. But then you get these cases where it's like, okay, I think this is real, but I don't know how exactly to project him other than slightly better than he's being made out to be.
Yep. Well, this is leading me to the Brewers. We have them 4th in top stack, 8th in value. They are 5th in ownership. I'm like 2.5 times the field right now on the Brewers, comparable ratings and all, but this is the first spot I'm getting to. But a lot of that has to do with the fact that Steamer has Osvaldo Beto as a 5.00 projected FIP.
Right. And to put in the context what I was just saying, and again, this goes both ways. Not only does it affect how you're viewing Vito as the pitcher, but the Milwaukee side. Steamer projects they don't have a strikeout percentage rest of season on Fangraphs, but 7.4 strikeouts per 9. The last time, and obviously minor leagues are different than major leagues, but the last time that Beto struck out less than 7.4 hitters per 9 was in 2019 in A-ball. Most recently, and again, K per 9 is flawed, but I'm using it just because I happen to choose Steamer. 9.86 strikeouts per 9 last year at AAA, 9.1 at AAA this year, 10.3 so far in the majors. A 7.4 K per 9 and 5.14 FIP is probably just a little bit worse than he is.
Yep. So yeah, right now I've got like 15% of Yelich, Contreras, Tellez, Adames, Winker. Probably gonna carry. Like, I'm gonna keep it for most of the time. The implied total makes me feel a little bit better on the Pirates. Or on the Brewers. Like 4.7 in this spot on the road makes me feel a little bit better. So I don't mind getting to the Milwaukee side, but I also wouldn't mind if it went away because I just don't trust it.
Right. And the other thing, too, is in spots like this, I still think it's more likely than not that a year from now, nobody even remembers who Osvaldo Vito was. And like, he doesn't end up being any good. It's just that like his median is probably slightly higher than it's being made out to be. But I don't think it's a case where this guy, is like hands down unbelievably better than he's being made out to be.
Pirates are a good value. We have them as the second best value stack. Is this anything you want here against Peralta?
Not really. Not a good park for power. Mentioned it earlier. He's given up power to both sides of the plate. In terms of expected power, he's had more issues with righties. 204 expected ISO to righties this year. 344 expected WOBA. If I remember correctly, that's weird for him too. Last year, 113 expected ISO and a 269 expected WOBA to righties. Don't really know what to make of it. If you go from the start of last year, he's at 154, 304. So I don't really know what to make of it. If you were looking for right-handed power here, you're looking at McCutchen, Henry Davis at 2,200, probably batting cleanup. But there's not a lot of power in general in this lineup. And two of the guys, Sawinski and Reynolds, are left-handed, which doesn't mean you can't play them. But Peralta hasn't really had the issues there this year.
Rank the game.
Peralta, Brewers, Vito, Pirates.
Bingo.
Or Pirates, Vito.
Hit that like button if you haven't done it already, folks. We're moving on to Blue Jays and Red Sox. 4.8 run implied total for the Jays, 4.4 for the Sox. Jose Barrios and James Paxton, neither guy getting any ownership. Barrios, 9,500 at 4% owned. Paxton, 10,300 at 3% owned. I think both of these guys are under-owned in the grand scheme of things, but also very difficult to get to in their current matchups.
Right. It's just tough to pay 10-3 for a pitcher against the Jays. They don't strike out a lot. They have a lot of really good hitters. Now, Paxton is a fantastic pitcher as well. When you say that, Paxton's 10-3 and Barrios is 9,500, like it seems like Paxton's a little bit underpriced. Like in that comparison, he has the highest strikeout percentage on the slate at 31.8%. 3.19 xFIP. He's always been good at striking out right-handed hitters. 161 expected ISO to righties this year. 35% strikeout percentage. 2.265 expected WOBA. He's really good. You still have a 4.6 run total on Toronto. So I don't mind getting some Paxton in tournaments just based on talent and the fact that there's no perfect pitcher on this slate. But it's pretty much an ownership play, I think. 2.5% ownership is certainly way too low compared to the guys ahead of him, but it's also a really tough spot. And then for Barrios on the other side, same kind of thing. He's been good enough, striking out 22% hitters, 4.07 xFIP, about a home run per 9 innings. As far as splits go, 186 expected ISO to lefties, 175 to righties. Expected WOBA is higher to lefties, as you'd expect. The Red Sox are a dangerous lineup. They do only have a 3.9 implied run total, but you're loading up on lefties most likely, probably going to have 5 in the top 6 with Duran, Verdugo, Devers, Yoshida, and Casas all in there. It's a pretty scary spot to be spending $9,500 for Barrios.
So I don't have either pitcher. I wouldn't mind if I did, but right. I don't. I do have the Red Sox, however, if we want to have that conversation. They are 16th in top stack, 10th in top value. I'm a little bit higher in both metrics. And I think that's probably part of the reason that I'm pulling these guys in. Is there anything here for you at all on any part of this, whether that's Jays bats, Red Sox bats? We've already touched on the hitters.
I actually prefer the Red Sox side, I think, which their implied run total is like a half run lower. But Barrios hasn't had massive struggles this year. Like I said, still a 186 expected ISO to lefty, so he'll give up power. But that was a big issue for him last year. And if you go back to the start of last season, it gets up to a 210 expected ISO, 355 expected WOBA to lefties. He probably has made improvements, but he still hasn't been great against them. And you don't have to go back that far to see him really struggle. So in this park, getting all of that left-handed power is pretty interesting to me. Clearly the Blue Jays are going to be a high upside stack as well, but I actually have a little bit easier time making a case for the Red Sox.
Yeah, right now I have 23 Red Sox 5-mans. I've got a pretty solid stance here. So hopefully Barrios has one of those starts where I normally roster him and he gets brutalized. But 7% projected ownership to Devers. I have 19. Like that's exactly the kind of guy I want on a day like today. It's just like, okay, I got the really talented guy at good ownership. I'll take what I can get here. I don't have much of the Blue Jays, just, scattered filler, which is fine with me. There's so much power on this Blue Jays team that I think they work really well as 1-offs, 2-offs, 3-offs, however you want to say it. Rank this game.
Boston, Toronto, Paxton, Barrios.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there. No idea who that is.
Yeah, I know who it is, but it's not somebody that should be higher.
No, I don't even have him on the slate, so we'll have that conversation, I guess, later.
He's not.
Oh, okay. makes more sense to me then. Anything else you want to touch on for this game?
Nope.
All right, well, that's easy enough. Hit the like button, folks. That is the helpful piece of all of this for us. We got to talk schedule for the rest of the day. This is pretty easy. deeper dive, 4:45. Adam will be back with Lofty. Then we get the 6 p.m. MLB live before lock show. Also, I don't want to miss it because I didn't have it written down before, but I know that I saw it earlier. Aton running the Market Watch show at 4 p.m. So tune into that one as well. I missed that on my original prep. We also need to talk at least a little bit about the lineup generator. We touch on it a lot on this show, and I think that's an important thing to do because really it's the most accessible tool that we have for MLB. We generate thousands and thousands of baseball lineups on the back end. We get rid of everything that we think stink. All the super low expected value type lineups, we don't even bother bringing them to you because we don't think they're any good. We just bring you the goods. So if you like the lineup, you just click save. If you don't, click discard. It goes away. You can save up to 20 via CSV. You can generate as many as you would like. You could lock players, swap players. You could pick whatever stack size you're looking for. I think this is a tool that's really going to help you out if you're trying to get a little bit better at MLB DFS. And the big benefit, 50% off using the promo code SCORE. If you click the link in the description when you sign up, you're going to get it for less than $5 for your first week. The worst case scenario here is that you hate the tool during that first week and you're out about $5. I personally think you're going to love it and you're just going to continue to keep getting it. So make sure you're clicking that link, guys. Get yourself some lineup generator. Why not make yourself at least a little bit better? Why not try at the very least? Maybe you hate it, maybe you don't, but it's a very low entry point for you. And I think that's going to make you a little bit better off. The Mets and the Giants are the next game up. 4.4 run implied total for the Mets, 4.6 for the Giants. Carlos Carrasco and Alex Cobb. This one looks a lot sort of a lot like Blue Jays and Red Sox. Carrasco at one time was really good. 8% ownership coming into Carrasco, 5% ownership coming into Cobb. How do you want to handle the pitching here? Because with 6K Carrasco, I think he's like okay.
Yeah, I think he's okay at that price because, again, you're not talking a lot of opportunity costs on this slate. We have him getting 8% ownership, 5% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. It's a good strikeout matchup. It's a dangerous matchup overall, but also this is still a watered down San Francisco lineup, assuming no Conforto or Yastrzemski. So we saw, Bassett really dominated yesterday. You're not expecting the same sort of thing here from Carrasco, but it is a weaker lineup, assuming those guys aren't in it. I'm not sure exactly what their injury list status is, but assuming they're not in it, it's a watered down lineup. He's not a great pitcher at this point by any stretch. 15% strikeout percentage, 5.27 xFIP. It's purely just a salary play, and it's a good enough park.
I have 13% of him right now. I didn't really see that coming, but between the park and the matchup, I think it's all fine if you're looking for a value option. I don't have much else to say for Carrasco. Alex Cobb's really good. Probably not for today. 8,600 is an interesting price tag, but this Mets offense is talented, and Cobb is a way better real life pitcher than fantasy pitcher. I don't really see the path to a lot of Cobb today.
Yeah, good real life pitcher, like you said. Not a good strikeout matchup. Good offense. $8,600 salary is kind of interesting. When you compare him to somebody like Dean Kramer that's getting ownership, he's certainly a better pitcher than Kramer. 22.5% K percentage, 3.25 xFIP. He actually has the second best xFIP on the slate. The only guy better is Paxton. So from that standpoint, where he's getting 4% ownership and Kramer's getting 19, I think Cobb should be getting more, but it's still a tough strikeout matchup and not a great strikeout pitcher.
And then as we look at hitting ownership, Giants are 13th on the slate. Mets are 19th. We actually have the Giants 8th in top stack, which is, there's some upside in a matchup against Carlos Carrasco. I personally look at this game and I don't expect to have much offense. Yeah,
I kind of like the San Francisco side because Carrasco has been so bad. Sure. But like we were just saying, the lineup's watered down a bit. 187 expected ISO to lefties for Carrasco, 155 to righties. I do like Wade. I do like Peterson in particular.
Yeah, I have no problem. I have 3% of Jock. That's the most of any hitter I have in this game. I just don't see this game as particularly appealing, and I certainly don't see it as appealing as an offensive game. There's so many teams that have like 5+ run implied totals. This feels like a stretch. Can you rank this game?
From including pricing and stuff, I guess Carrasco, Giants, Cobb, Mets.
Yeah, that's don't feel comfortable with anything that comes out of my mouth for ranking this one.
Yeah, I do think Cobb's a good tournament play though. Like the more I just look at his ownership compared to Kramer, it doesn't make a ton of sense.
Yeah, I mean, normally I get to Cobb in situations like this. It doesn't appear to be happening today.
Yeah, I mean, to put it in context, we have Cobb projected 1.2 points higher than Kramer.
Let's see. I have Kramer, which doesn't feel correct.
Yeah, no. I mean, other places do too. But like,
yeah,
the point is that depending where you look, one like you could have either one projected higher, but they're within a point or two of each other either direction.
Yeah, I've got 15-2 for Kramer and 12-5 for Cobb.
Yeah,
probably
a little low on Cobb.
Yeah, we'll see where that ends up by the end of
Cobb's
the day.
Cobb's another one that's weird to project too because he had so many injuries in his career.
Yeah. 5.2 run implied total for my Atlanta Braves, taking on the Marlins. 4.4 run implied total there. Mike Soroka going for Atlanta. Nice to see him back. Brian Hoeing going for the Marlins. No ownership coming into Hoeing at 5,600. No ownership coming into Soroka at 7,100. Do you see any upside for pitching here?
I think Soroka is mildly interesting.
Yeah.
4 flat implied run total for Miami. Not the best offense. You know, they do have Chisholm back now, so they're better. But overall this year, their active roster has a 95 WRC plus against right-handed pitching, 21% strikeout percentage. Soroka hasn't been up much this year. He hasn't been in the majors the last couple of years because of injury, but was a promising young pitching prospect for Seattle or for Atlanta. I don't know where Seattle came from.
Neither do I.
I was typing Soroka and I think I just saw the S and my brain said Seattle. But
yeah.
He hasn't been good so far this year. 10% strikeout percentage through his first 2 starts. But the last time he had a full major league season, his rookie year in 2019, 29 starts, 174 innings pitched, 20% K percentage, 3.45 FIP. Who knows what he is 4 years later? But at 7,100 in a decent matchup on a slate without good pitching and at no ownership, I don't really mind finding out.
I didn't realize that it's been so long for him. There's an extra year in there that I don't remember him being gone.
Well, you had the COVID season too.
Sure, but I remember him tearing his Achilles and not just being like, oh shit, this sucks.
Right.
And he's just been gone since then, essentially. And I don't remember it being that aggressive. The 2019 season was just like, oh yeah, nice. He's up. I don't think he's a 1 or anything crazy, but this is going to be a guy that's going to be a part of the.
Yeah.
And now it's 3 years later.
Yeah. I kind of did say when he made his first start this year, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about Soroka. He was out for a year. And then I was just like, oh, he was out for essentially 4.
Yeah. It's been a minute.
Decent numbers at AAA this year too. I mean, it's not, which is good to see. Obviously you're not just putting everything into AAA stats, but the fact that he's not getting lit up at AAA is good. It would be certainly concerning coming back from that layoff and then just not being able to get AAA hitters out. 23.5% K percentage, 3.7 FIP. I certainly think he's better than what he's done through his first 2 major league starts this year. Is he as good as he was in 2019? Who knows? But again, 7,100, no ownership on this slate. He doesn't need to be as good as 2019 to still be a competent play.
How do you see the bats in this one? We have the Braves 3rd in top stack, 23rd in value. Obviously, it's hard for them to be a value stack, but they are expensive today. 8th in ownership. Do you want to pay up for Atlanta?
Never going to be upset about it. They're at home. It's, I assume, going to be hot and humid. Looks like 90 degrees. Ball should carry. So, yeah, I think they look pretty interesting. We have them 3rd in top stack percentage right now at 6.5%. That's 3rd highest, but 2nd highest amongst non-road teams in cores. Only 4% ownership. So it is pretty interesting. And again, you can stack the Braves and actually use the Tigers as value pieces to balance that out, as ridiculous as that is. Yeah,
I don't mind getting to Atlanta. I don't have a lot, but always happy to take their ceiling because this lineup is absolutely loaded. So sign me up for all of the whole lineup is power to a degree.
Since the start of last season, 196 expected ISO to righties for Hoeing, 184 to lefties. So far this year, limited sample, but 151 to righties, 101 to lefties. Maybe got better, maybe small sample, but either way, the Braves aren't your average hitters.
Any interest in the Marlins bats?
Not really. Jazz Chisholm in particular, I'm perfectly fine with.
Rank the game.
Braves Soroka, Marlins, Hoeing.
There it is. Rangers and Astros, 5.1 run implied total for the Rangers, 4.2 for the Astros. John Gray and Ronel Blanco going for the Stros. Basically no ownership for Blanco. John Gray, 23% owned at 9,300. We've talked about a few 9K plus pitchers now. Where does Gray rank for you?
He's good, and we've certainly seen him get back to being normal as the year's gone on after starting out slowly. But it's still a tough matchup. 21.5% strikeout percentage overall, 4.39 xFIP. Again, I think he's better than those numbers, but not a great strikeout matchup here. Right now, we have him with a 13% chance of being a top 2 pitcher, 23% projected ownership. He's essentially tied with McClanahan for the highest owned pitcher on the slate. I think he's a good play. I'm not as confident in him as I am in most like top plays on the slate.
Yeah, I don't have anything to say about him in a vacuum, but as I start looking at the rest of lineups, I think he's very easy to get away from.
I think there's plenty of alternatives that aren't markedly worse. Like we have him projected for 15.7 DraftKings points right now. So that's behind Miller, Lopez, Peralta, McClanahan. They're all Miller's $100 less. They're all either $100 less or a little bit more. McClanahan's 11K. But you start looking at other pitchers. Cobb 14.9, Griffin 15, or Canning 15, Blanco 14, Barrios 14, Kramer 13.7. Like these guys just aren't that different. So I think he's one of the better plays, but it's another one of those slates where like I just don't think the gap between the best play and a perfectly fine play is that big.
Yeah, I think I would much rather just give up a fantasy 1.5 of projection to not have John Gray against the Astros.
Really, to me, it kind of just going to come down to what do the rest of my lineups look like? Because when I'm getting to the more popular stacks, more popular hitters, I'm not going to be worried about getting away from John Gray. But in lineups where, let's say I'm going to the Braves just because they're a low-owned team we just talked about. If I'm stacking a low-owned team and I can afford Gray, like he's going to project better than most of the alternatives.
Who's better, Peralta or Gray today?
I go Peralta.
Yeah, this is why I keep funneling to Peralta. I just like when I start comparing him to all the guys that are around him, it's like, well, I prefer Peralta. I prefer Peralta. Oh, Peralta doesn't face the Astros today, so that helps. Like it's just every little checkbox is getting me to more Peralta. So I hope that holds because I like it. What do you want to do with Blanco? 6,800 on the opposite side seems like a tough sell.
Yeah, it's more so just a low-owned, cheap guy. I mentioned him a second ago. We still have him projected for like 14 DraftKings points. He's got a 9% chance of being a top 2 scoring pitcher, 13% top 2 value, and he's only getting 3% ownership. We may be, a little bit high on him, just given that it's a really tough matchup against Texas. 14 seems a little aggressive, but he's cheap. He's not popular. Probably won't get much. I mean, Texas does have a 5-run implied total here, so he's not a terrible pitcher. He's more talented than his price tag, but you're also running into Texas.
18th in ownership for the Astros bats, 11th for the Rangers. Now, I'm a lot higher on the top stack odds for the Rangers. We have them 14th. I actually have them 5th. That said, I'm not getting there. I'm similarly not getting to the Braves. I look at both of those teams pretty comparably today. I would like to get to more Texas in this spot. I don't have them, but I think they've got quite a bit of upside.
Yeah, I think they're similar, and it's not surprising that you're higher on the top stack because we have a high Blanco projection, so it goes hand in hand. But I'm more, I think, with you as far as I certainly prefer Texas to Blanco here in terms of like who's more likely to succeed. 165 expected ISO to lefties, 340 to righties. He's really had power issues with righties so far. Only 338 total pitches thrown, but a 237 expected ISO, 360 expected WOBA. Basically, the way I view that is I'm still going to be happy getting to Lowe and Jonah Heim, the two, and Seager, the 3 primary lefties in this lineup, but there's no reason to be shying away from Semien, Garcia, Young, Garver, Duran. Like this is a really good lineup, and there's a lot of potential here. On a side note, did you see that 4 of the 5 infielders in the All-Star game, starting in the All-Star game, will be Rangers?
I did not.
Yeah, Heim, Seager, Young, and Semien all starting.
How excited are you for the All-Star break?
I actually hadn't thought about it, but now I am.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it until it's probably like 2 or 3 days.
It's probably like 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, it's 4 days, no baseball. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I believe.
Yeah.
It's not as good as the NBA one. That's usually like 8 days.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wasn't thinking about it. And I was standing outside. I let the dogs out. I was like, holy shit, we got some days coming off. This is going to be outstanding. So yeah, that's coming up soon. I used to always be somewhere for it or take a trip or anything like that. We don't have anything lined up.
Yeah, I usually NBA All-Star break. I usually try to because it's cold and I want to go somewhere.
Yeah.
For baseball, I know one year I just kind of like went down to the casino at National Harbor and just booked a room for like 3 days. But yeah, I don't always take trips for that. I usually try to for NBA.
Yeah. One year it was just me standing outside of a hotel in San Francisco with Dusty Baker waiting for an Uber. It was a good time. I don't think he's going to be there this year.
This year, I think I went to Savannah. I think that's when I got COVID. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the best.
Yeah. Because this year I was really hot going into the All-Star break. So I actually didn't want it to come. And then I got my ass kicked coming out of it. And I was like, yeah, I wish that just never happened.
I'm hoping I can get some work done. Like there's a lot of stuff that I want to build out on the back end. So it'll be nice to just like not have anything to think about. Just wake up in the morning, grab a coffee, sit down and get like a couple hours worth of good work in, and then just be like, okay, now I'm going to go fuck around.
Yeah.
Rank this game, by the way.
Gray, Texas, Blanco, Houston.
Folks, we got to talk a little about Prize Picks, the presenting sponsor. They've got me decked out in a Prize Picks hat and shirt. They didn't ask me to do that. I just really like the hat, and the shirt is comfortable as hell. You know what else is great about Prize Picks? My Prize Picks plays, which you guys should be checking out on the Odd Shopper channel or on my Twitter 6 days a week. I take Saturdays off. You got to rest the brain a little bit, but it's been a hell of a run. 30, 36 and 17 over the last 53 plays. That is a 68% pick rate. That is absolutely smashing. We got a little lucky yesterday. We dropped the first 2, picked up the final 4, got to another 4 and 2. You guys should be playing at Prize Picks, and the easiest way for you to do that is to click the link in my videos. But honestly, click the link in the description of this video. Sign up. You'll get up to $100 on your first deposit. My recommendation is to put in 100. That way you get 100. You'll also get 1 free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum. That is a hell of a deal. That's over $100 in value. You're picking up $100 in a deposit bonus and $100+ in value of a Stochastic package, all for just clicking one simple link. It's that easy. You're going to say more or less on a boatload of different player projections. I like to look at the hitter fantasy scores, and that's what I'm going to hit Adam with for a couple of those right now. I'm going to give you my most extreme. We'll see where you land. How do you feel? More or less than 7.5 fantasy points for Christian Yelich?
More.
It is more for me as well. That is the most extreme one that I have. Obviously, that might be based on Osvaldo Bido being less than stellar in steamer projections, but I think it's a more either way. Let's go to Pete Alonso, more or less than 7.5 fantasy points against Alex Cobb.
Slightly more.
Okay, that one's a less for me, as is Lindor. So I doubled up on Mets teammates. Let me hit you with one more. The bane of our existence right now, the most hated man in baseball, Shohei Ohtani, more or less than 10 fantasy points.
More.
Yeah, it's less for me, and I took it, and I'm happy about it, and I hope he sucks. He won't suck because I need him to.
Have you learned nothing from the last couple of days?
Oh, man. Really just unhappy with this dude.
I watched that yesterday, and like I knew it was coming too. Like it was just, and he gets behind 0-2, and I'm like, all right, maybe. And then total like waste pitch. And the broadcaster's like, I think he goes back to a breaking ball here. He's not going to give in to Ohtani, and he just hangs a slider right down the middle.
I was watching the game day or whatever the hell the MLB version of it's called, and I saw the first 2 pitches, and then I see the blue one in play runs. I was like, oh, that's gone.
Yeah. And it was a no doubter, dead center field. Oh. Like he just hit it and watched. You didn't even get that minute of like, oh, maybe it's going to get caught at the wall.
And like, I know pre-lock, you were just like, I don't love that Angels exposure unless you just have a ton of Ohtani. And I was just like, oh, like I have enough Ohtani. So like, I didn't care too much that he hit that home run. I hated everything else that had happened in that game, but like that homer specifically wasn't the death sentence that it could have been for me.
Right.
But the death sentence was the dribbler single from the day before.
Right. Like it was big for me, but it's one of those two where at the top of the inning, I get Luis Robert hit, stolen base, run to like jump into the top 5.
Yeah. And that's then the one that I didn't want.
Right. And then Ohtani knocks me out of it. And I'm just like, God, I run so bad.
Yeah. I was in second. And then you were just like, I'm glad that Lubob shit happened. I was like, then I looked at it and it was me, then you. And then I knew you were going to pass me because of the Lynn points. So at that point, I was like, shit, I need the Angels to score 2. And then it became 4. And then they did get 2. Just irritating across the board. You ready to talk cores?
Yep.
The good news is we don't have to talk about the Dodgers in cores any longer. The bad news is we're still in cores. Rockies and Tigers, 5.4 run implied total for the Rockies. At least that's what I have. I also have 5.9 for the Tigers, which is a decidedly different number than what we have. Austin Gomber going for Colorado, Michael Lorenzen going for the Tigers. Let's just start here very quickly. We're not rostering pitchers.
No. Yeah, no.
Fair. So let's just get that out of the way right now. Let's start with the Tigers. Number 1 in top stack, number 1 in top value, number 1 in ownership. I do think they look fantastic. Now, I do have them as my number 2 stack as a top stack, but they're clearly exceptional because they just don't have salaries today.
Yeah, they're free. I'm on the same page as you. 21% top stack percentage. That's higher than probably should be.
I have the Dodgers ahead of them, who we're going to get to in a second.
Yeah, but also just the 21% number is high. Yeah. Like that's in line with what the Dodgers have been, and they're not the Dodgers.
I have 11.
Yeah, that seems a lot more reasonable. From a value standpoint, completely get it. We have them with a 21% chance of being the top value as well. That's a totally different conversation. But 21% for the Detroit Tigers to be the highest scoring team on a slate is like if they were on the moon, I don't know if I'd agree with that. But
what? Pacers are trading Chris Duarte to the Kings for draft compensation, which makes me think that Max Strus might be incoming to the Pacers.
That sentence just got less and less interesting the entire time. Like I was waiting for you to say there was like some good player that I cared about going to the Pacers.
I'm in for all NBA transactional conversation. So anyway, back to Tigers.
So yeah, from a value standpoint, absolutely fantastic. From a raw, top stack standpoint, they still look really good. Like they are certainly up there. But yeah, I mean, Gomber's not any good. Vierling at 3,500, that's a joke of a price. Torkelson at 4K. I make fun of him pretty much every slate, but he's 4K in cores against the shit lefty. Like, sign me up. Ibanez, multi-position eligibility, probably batting third at 3K. Baez is the only guy in this lineup, or a projected lineup on DraftKings, above $4,000. He's 4,900. He has his flaws, but he does give you some power and stolen base upside, at least historically. But the rest of this team is just free. Eric Haas, catcher, outfield, 4K with power. 6 through, or Scope, Cabrera, and Short are all sub 3K. I mean, you can use them as 3-mans with more expensive stacks. You can 5-man stack them and do whatever you want elsewhere. They obviously look really good.
Yeah, we're on the same page there. I'll have some. I don't know how that's going to be allocated, but for like they clearly are exceptional for today. Are the Rockies getting like aggressively slept on? We have them 10th in top stack. They're 9th in ownership. I'm a little bit higher in everything for them today. I don't think they're great, but 3.5% ownership as a team in cores. I'm a little surprised it's that low.
Yeah, I like it. It's kind of similar to yesterday for me, where they're not great, but they're just not getting ownership in cores. They still have a 5.4 implied run total. This game, like they're plus 102 in a game with an 11 run total. This isn't a massive gap. This is 2 shitty offenses facing bad pitching in cores. So yeah, that lack of ownership and the gap in ownership where they're 5 times less popular than the Tigers right now, they're really interesting to me. I mentioned that yesterday. McMahon, one of the league leaders in hard hit percentage and soft contact percentage, certainly like getting there. They should have Chris Bryant back for whatever that's worth. He's been awful this year, but Nolan Jones at 4,500, Profar at 4K. expected ISO north of 200 against both sides of the plate for Lorenzen this year, not striking guys out, 14.5% K percentage to righties, 21.5 to lefties. He's better than Gomber, but he's still not very good.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the Rockies as a GPP team. I don't think you should be going crazy to get to them, but I think they're undervalued given the entire script of today. Very interesting. I wish there was something that we could do to like not get to the Tigers today, but they are just going to be a thorn in our side until they fix their pricing, which will happen probably in game 1 of their series.
Right.
For whoever they play after this. That's what usually makes it the most irritating. Rank the game.
Tigers, Rockies.
I see where you're going with that.
Yeah.
I was waiting for you to finish. I thought you were like pondering it, so I didn't want to say anything. Now I get it. So let's go to the next game. Royals and Dodgers. I've got a 4-run implied total for the Royals, 5.8 for the Dodgers. Alec Marsh for Kansas City. I don't know if that's official yet or not. Bobby Miller for the Dodgers. 4% ownership to Miller at 8,900. No ownership to Marsh. Flat 4K. Interesting value option. But let's start with Bobby Miller. 4% owned. I'm a little bit higher on Bobby Miller here.
Yeah, I don't totally get why he's not getting any ownership. It's a good matchup against KC. Probably not a great pitcher at this point. Just inexperienced. Will probably be good at some point. But on a slate where a lot of the good pitching has tough matchups, I'm a little surprised he's not getting more ownership. Only a 3.8 implied run total here. It is warm in KC, but reasonable price tag, good matchup. I think I'm a little bit more interested in Miller than the field.
Yeah, I have 15% right now. I wouldn't be mad to get a little bit more. This is a guy that, at least early in his minor league career, massive strikeout stuff. That's gone away this year, which I don't love, but we're talking about a top 50 pitching prospect or top 50 prospect in general. 65 fastball on Fangraphs. That'll work. 60 slider, projectable curveball, no command. I'll take my chances.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, so far in the majors, 24% K percentage to righties, 21% to lefties.
Yeah. But yeah, those first 2 years of the minors, 30, 30, 30, 30 type percentage K rate. So big time drop. Hopefully he finds that today, in fact. Do you want to do anything with Marsh at the flat 4K? I know it's the Dodgers. Obviously.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Dodgers. He is 4K flat, and he does have strikeout stuff. He projects, he projects between 18 and 22% strikeout percentage rest of the season from the available models on Fangraphs. But he struck out 28.8% of hitters in his 3 starts at AAA this year. Spent most of his time at AA, 11 starts there, struck out 26.5% of hitters. At 4K, obviously, like even a 20 to 22% strikeout percentage is fine. The big issue is just the matchup with the Dodgers. Probably don't really want to get to him, but as far as 4K pitchers go, he is at least somewhat talented.
Let's talk Dodgers bats. We have them 6th in top stack, 4th in ownership. I have them number 1 in top stack, but rounding above the Tigers. The upside to me is massive. Marsh does have the ability to put guys on. You don't want to give extra base runners to a team like the Dodgers. I don't love this park for power, but it's the Dodgers. I figure Muncy and Betts and Freeman and Smith can figure it out. I love the idea of getting to LA here, especially if they're only 6% owned today.
Yeah, same. It's like if this is the thing with the Tigers in Coors, they're going to get a lot of ownership because they're so cheap, but you get to the point a lot quicker with the Tigers than like when the Dodgers were there, where you're saying like, okay, this is still the Tigers. They don't have a lot of power. They're not a good offense. I can go to some really high upside offenses outside of Coors that are comparable. And the Dodgers are certainly one of those against the kid making his major league debut, 3 total starts above the AA level. The ceiling's massive and the ownership gap is also massive.
Yeah, like I'm super happy to have a 5-man Dodgers with the Tigers as the value of it all.
Right. Yeah, like I said that about the Braves. You can do it with the Dodgers too. This is one reason I think why the Braves ownership is as low as it is that if you are getting away from the cheap bats in Coors, you're probably getting to the Dodgers before the Braves.
Yeah, I think so too. And I am. And I'm cool. I'm 2Xing on the Dodgers right now. And I don't mind having a little bit more, honestly, but I like it. Do you have any interest in the Royals on the opposite side?
Not really. Prado, Witt, Perez, Melendez are all fine, but I'm not that interested.
Rank the game.
Dodgers, Miller, Marsh, Royals.
4.6 run implied total for the Cardinals, 4.7 for the Yankees. Matt going for the Cardinals, whose last name I never, ever remember. Luis yeah, sure, whatever. That's just not how it's ever going to get read in my head. Luis Severino going for the Yankees. Neither guy really pulling much ownership. Do you have a preferred side if you needed to get to pitching here?
Probably Severino.
I have 5% Severino. I have 5% Matt. So I have no preference. Is there anything interesting that you want to say about either guy?
Not really. Severino at times in his career has been really good. That time hasn't been this season. 19.5% K percentage, 5 xFIP, 2 home runs per 9, facing a Cardinals team that does have power. I don't have any confidence in him. He's just relatively inexpensive. 23% K percentage to righties, 15% to lefties, 243 expected ISO to righties, 220 to lefties. Like I would much rather be getting to Goldschmidt, Arenado, Contreras, Walker, Gorman, against him. On the other side, Liberatore was a top 100 pitching prospect. Hasn't really been good either. 16% K percentage this year, 10% walk percentage, 5.5 xFIP. Torres, Stanton from the right side are going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, talk to me about the Yankees, who we have number 2 in top stack, number 2 in ownership.
Yeah. I think they're a good stack. I don't think they're that good, but like it's still not a good lineup is the problem. You have Stanton, you have Torres, Rizzo obviously is good, but it's lefty. Other than that, are you like excited to play DJ LeMahieu in 2023 or Harrison Bader or Josh Donaldson, who did homer yesterday? It's a really, really weak lineup. So that's where I have trouble with it. I mean, they have a 4.5 implied run total. They're fine, but not a team that I love, especially if they're getting that level of ownership. Individually, I do really like Stanton and Torres. I think I actually kind of like the Cardinals full stack better.
Yeah, I mean, if I were going to get to the one side, it would probably be the Cardinals because of the Yankees ownership. I have the Yankees 12th in top stack, 6th in value. I think that probably equalizes them a little bit more. ESPN let go of Jeff Van Gundy.
Yeah, I just saw that on Twitter because I saw people asking how Mark Jackson still had a job and what, like, assuming Jeff Van Gundy didn't do something wrong. Like, how is that the decision you make?
Yeah. Do you have anything interesting to say about the Cardinals? I just don't really want, like, if I just look at this ownership agnostic, I just really don't want that much offense in this game.
Yeah, I mean, the park's not great. It is hot, and it gets humid in St. Louis, too, this time of year. I just like the upside throughout the Cardinals lineup for a pitcher in Severino that really struggles with power to both sides of the plate. Like Liberatore really struggles with right-handed power as well, 252 expected ISO. But when you're looking for right-handed power hitters on the Yankees, you essentially have 2 of them. With the Cardinals, guys that can hit for power from either side of the plate. I mean, you have Goldschmidt, you have Arenado, Contreras, Walker, Gorman, DeYoung. Like these guys can all do damage, and they're not that expensive. So from a full stacking standpoint, I think the Cardinals actually look a little bit better to me. From an individual player standpoint, I think Stanton looks like the best play.
Rank the game.
Cards, Yankees, Severino, Liberatore.
Folks, hit that like button if you haven't done it already. Let's try to get that number run up to 100. I got to touch on the Sims tool quickly. So hit the like button first. That one is the biggie. And then sign up for the Sims tool. That's what I want you guys to do because it's awesome. Adam, you're putting out a Sims tool video 5 days a week, correct?
Yep.
Can't beat that, right? Five days a week, not too shabby. You're getting some Sims videos from Greg on his Twitter feed as well. So make sure you're following Greg on Twitter. Follow Adam as well. Sims tool is new. It's $180 per month. I don't have a deal or anything like that for you. This is just a revolutionary tool in the industry. You'll load up your lineups. The goal probably is going to be to crunch out something that looks like the field. You can do upwards of 2,000 lineups. After it simulates the slate over and over and over again against itself, you're going to get ROI numbers and expected value numbers for individual players, lineups, stacks, people themselves in the post-contest sim. You'll be able to see who individually is doing well. This is a tool that will undoubtedly make you incrementally better at DFS. I would be shocked if anyone could just pick this up and somehow make worse off decisions than they were before. And I think you're going to start seeing this kind of tool everywhere in the industry in the near future. But don't forget where you got it first. That would be the MLB Sims tool that we have. So click the link in the description. Check out all the content that we have for it each and every day. I love it. I know Adam loves it. It's a great tool. It's fun to use. Changes up the way that you look at DFS too.
Yeah, I'll say it's nice because like not only is it giving you useful information, but like you can go into it and see, you can like visualize how strategies and concepts are coming together. Like so much stuff that we talk about individually, projections, ownership, top stack, all of that. Like you can see it within lineups. Like, oh, well, this makes sense in this lineup because, whatever.
3 more games to go, folks. Here we go. Angels and Diamondbacks. 5.1 run implied total for the Angels, 4.3 for the Diamondbacks. Griffin, Canning, and Tommy Henry on the hill. 19% ownership coming into Canning, no ownership coming into Tommy Henry. How do you see Canning at 8,300 in this spot?
I think he's somewhat interesting. He's a decent pitcher. It is a very tough matchup. It's a bad park. 4.3 implied run total for the Diamondbacks. But like we said, there's just no real perfect pitching option on this slate. He's 8,300. He's getting 19% ownership. This is another one where do I think he should be getting 4 to 5 times the ownership of Alex Cobb? No. Do I think he should be 4 to 5 times the ownership of Bobby Miller? Also no. But he's fine. It is a tough matchup. Arizona 113 WRC plus against right-handed pitching this year. Also only a 19.2% strikeout percentage. And it's not like Canning has great stuff that can overcome that. 22.9% strikeout percentage is fine, but it's not like he's an elite strikeout pitcher or anything. 3.99 xFIP. He's good. But again, I wouldn't be too worried about pivoting to lower owned guys if you need to.
Yeah, and that is what I'm doing here. Don't love this park for him. It's not the best strikeout matchup in the world, or at least based on whatever we have in there now. So I think it's kind of easy to get away from that 19% ownership, but that doesn't invalidate him as like a talent. He is a good enough pitcher. Henry, I don't have anything to say.
He's very bad.
We have the Angels 17th in top stack, 20th in value. I've got them 4th in top stack. I'm a little bit more optimistic here. A lot of it has to do with having 4 MPEs in the projected lineup. I think that helps, but we're talking about a 5-run implied total. We're talking about a great park. We're talking about a great matchup against Tommy Henry. What am I missing here? Because I think the Angels stand out.
Yeah, I think they look really good too. Henry has been okay at limiting power this year. 177 expected ISO to righties, 137 to lefties. The only lefty you're likely to have in this lineup is Ohtani, who I don't care if Henry had never given up a hit to a lefty all year. I'm still playing Ohtani. Ward, Trout, Drury, Renfroe from the right side, all with power. Switch hitting Escobar, second base, third base. This looks like a very appealing stack to me, especially if they're only projected for 3.5% ownership.
Yeah, I love that ownership play. I am getting to some of the stacks. I just think there's a lot more upside here, and the flexibility is massive. If it shakes out like it does right now, it's really easy to mix and match these guys. And obviously, lefty power plays up, or the lefty power plays up big time in LA. Righty power is still perfectly acceptable. I love every piece of this Angels side if they're going to be as unrepresented as they are.
Yeah, I mean, they 5.2 implied run total. Like when you just compare it to these other teams that we talked about, Dodgers are at 5.7, 5.7 for the Tigers, 5.4 for the Rockies. It's not, obviously run totals aren't everything, but just to kind of, from a macro standpoint, point out that the Angels really are not that different than teams that are getting a lot more ownership.
No, not at all. I mean, I'm going to throw the Angels in with the Braves and the Rangers, and I'm going to lose out on one of those teams and probably 2 of those teams, but I would that's the area of teams that I'm really looking at because of their lack of ownership. Right.
And you and I have both mentioned it already, but this just looks like such a good slate to be saying, oh, okay, people are going to just be playing the Tigers everywhere. What if I just play these actual really good offenses, mix in the Tigers or don't, and take my chances there?
And there is the first game in Coors narrative, whatever we want to call that.
And there's also just when you think about for one, like Coors is good for home runs, but that's not why it's the best hitter's park.
Yeah.
But also the Tigers, like they don't have power. Now, are they going to have more power in Coors than they do in Detroit? Sure.
Yeah.
But there's still a very good chance that they end up being really good value plays because they score 8 runs on singles and doubles. But if they do that, they're good values, but they're not must-haves. Like there's going to be other guys you can get to. When you think about like how, they have a similar implied run total, a little bit higher than these other teams, but you think about how those runs are likely to be scored. It's likely that it's just, hit after hit after hit, which is good, but, not necessarily winning you tournaments for the Tigers. Whereas teams like the Angels, the Rangers, the Braves, like they're hitting home runs to get their runs.
What a slate. Do you have any interest in the Diamondbacks on the opposite side? I mean, I guess it is an appealing park for it. And
it's an appealing park. It's a good offense. 128 expected ISO to lefties for Canning this year. Changeup's been very effective for him. Righties have actually hit him for more power with a 214 expected ISO. It's Christian Walker, probably a pretty sneaky home run play here. Gurriel in that boat as well. Ketel Marte, if you can get there, but I don't think you're going to have Corbin. I don't think you're going to have Corbin Carroll today, which sucks from a stacking standpoint.
Yeah, he sure does. He got pinch hit for yesterday, and that was pretty irritating too.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he got injured.
Oh, did he? Okay. Maybe that's why they pinch hit for him.
That's the only reason they would pinch hit for him.
When I saw it, I was furious. I didn't dig in.
As you should be.
Yeah, I didn't.
Why didn't the Angels pinch hit for Ohtani yesterday? That would have been great.
If I would have used it 2 days ago, brother.
Yeah. But no, I'm pretty sure he got hurt.
Well, that sucks too. All right. A's and White Sox. 3.7 run implied total for the A's, 4.5 for the White Sox. Luis Medina and Tanner Banks. At least I think it's Tanner Banks. When I originally prepped this, we were missing out on some of the White Sox side of it, but I think it's Tanner Banks.
Carroll got hurt on a swing in the 5th inning.
That sounds right. Luis Medina, 12% owned at 5,800. Tanner Banks, 7% owned at 5K. I've got a bit more Tyra Banks. I got a little bit more Tyra Banks than that. What do you want to do with Banks at 5K?
I think I'd rather roster Tyra.
I don't like Tyra Banks, so I would rather roster Tanner.
But I mean, yeah, he's cheap. He's got a good matchup.
That's sort of my lean. Like the park, like the matchup. He's like the price, and he's whatever as a guy. Like that's kind of enough for me at 5K against the A's.
Yeah, very limited sample this year. 20% K percentage to righties, 345 expected ISO, but small sample. Good park here. I'd rather not really get there, but if you have to pay down, it's fine. To me, he's kind of just similar, all things considered, to Alec Marsh. Like Marsh, probably better strikeout stuff, but also facing the Dodgers. I don't think I'm going to need to pay down all that often, but if I do, whatever.
I'm just surprised to see Medina getting more ownership.
Me too, because that dude is bad. He's somebody at 5,800 where, like, if he was getting no ownership in Oakland, I could make the case that he's kind of interesting in tournaments. But if the field's already there, I mean, for the season, Medina has struck out 19% of hitters, which is okay. 4.82 xFIP, 2.1 home runs per 9, walking 12% of hitters. The White Sox have been below average offensively, but they do still have some talent. He's underpriced in a good park, so I guess I get it from that standpoint. But it's really hard to make like a strong case for him.
I just don't know how you make the case for Medina over Banks, just specifically in this game. Banks has the better matchup, the better price tag. What would be the difference?
How deep they can go in the games.
I guess.
I mean, Banks has thrown 63 pitches in each of his last 2 outings. That's the most he's thrown in the majors this year. Medina threw 90 in his most recent.
That's fair. And I do have Medina going deeper in the game. But I'm more interested in Banks. He's my preferred pay down option if I got to get to somebody.
What's Banks been doing in the minors this year? As far as I'm
making Banks?
Yeah, you don't know the answer. Yeah, so 13 relief appearances at AAA this year. I assume he doesn't have anywhere close to the same innings ceiling as Medina. Like, even if you call it, let's say today he gets to 70 pitches, like you still could just be losing by 20 plus pitches to Medina.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like they're slowly but surely trying to stretch him out. So
yeah, but like that's still maybe he gets 70 today.
Yeah. Let's talk offense. We've got the White Sox 7th in top stack, 4th in top value, 3rd in overall ownership. I'm a bit lower on the White Sox in this spot, although I do like targeting Medina, but I hate this park. So I'm not all that interested in Chicago.
Yeah, the park sucks. I like Luis Robert. 4,700 is pretty cheap for him considering the year he's having. Jimenez, Vaughn, Berger, all fine. But the park sucks, like you said. It's tough to prioritize the White Sox over some of these better offenses that are also in better parks.
Yeah, I will happily give up whatever ownership the White Sox are getting to get to the Braves, the Rangers, the Angels, all of these teams that we've already talked about that just look better. The A's are a value.
They are.
That's a sentence that I can say.
I've been getting to them a decent amount recently, but if you do, I think it's, Ruiz for his stolen base upside. You can look at some cheap Brent Rooker. He's got power. Langoliers can hit for a catcher, but overall, not a slate where I'm interested in the A's.
You ready to close this one out?
Yep.
All right, folks. Thank you for being here. 260 people in the house, 71 likes. If we could hit that like button one more time, that would be great. Remember, we've got shows coming up later today, pre-recorded content as well. So make sure you're looking out for the VODs. Mariners and Rays, 3.3 run implied total for the Mariners, 4 for the Rays. Bryce Miller on the hill for Seattle. Shane McClanahan going for Tampa. McClanahan, $11K, the most expensive pitcher on the slate. Tough matchup against Seattle. There are some strikeouts, though. How are you evaluating McClanahan? Because he's sort of on an island today.
Yeah, I mean, he looks good. The price tag is certainly problematic, but 26.7% K percentage this year, 3.74 xFIP. That's the best strikeout percentage other than Paxton and Lopez. Best xFIP other than like 4 or 5 guys. He's been really, really good. The Mariners active roster does have a 114 WRC plus against left-handed pitching since the start of last year. That's 11th in baseball, but they also have a 25% strikeout percentage, which is the tied for third highest over that stretch. So there is strikeout upside here for McClanahan. We do have enough cheap bats that I think you can get to him. I wouldn't necessarily be just sacrificing hitting a ton to get there. Like if the reason I can't get the Braves is that I would have to go from McClanahan to like Miller, Peralta, Gray, I'm willing to just do that and still get to those high upside bats. But where you can afford McClanahan, he does look good.
I got 40% of McClanahan right now. I'm on the high side there, obviously. Don't mind it. The upside is massive. The guy that I want to talk more about is Bryce Miller. 9,200 on the opposite side here against the Rays. The run environment works. He's projected for 20% ownership. That feels healthy.
Yeah, this is another spot where I think I like him. I think he's a good play. I think I'm a little bit lower than we are right now. We have him with the highest top 2 pitcher percentage at 16%. Kind of a tough sell going up against the Rays, one of the best offenses in baseball, or the best offense in baseball against right-handed pitching this year. 127 WRC plus, only a 21.5% K percentage. They are in a good pitcher's park, like you said, and Miller does have talent, but it's a hard sell for me to say Miller is the best pitcher on this slate when, the guy's barely got any experience outside of Double-A and he's facing the Rays.
I have him 8th behind Peralta, McClanahan, Gray, Kramer, Miller, Lopez, and Canning.
Like that feels a little low, but I think.
And like the difference between him and Canning is a 0.5 percentage point. You could flip flop those guys really easily, but right. I don't mind having him behind Lopez, McClanahan, Peralta, John Gray.
Yeah,
the guys that he should be behind without question.
Right, like he's good, but I mean,
yeah.
In 10 starts in the majors this year, 22.5% K percentage, 3.38 FIP. Again, that's good, but it's not like he's like blowing guys away with strikeout stuff. He projects for around a 22% strikeout percentage, and he's facing Tampa. Like, I think he's a good play. I have a hard time making the case that he's the best.
Yeah. Well, you and I are on the same page there. One thing that I do know for this game, do you want the number 5 top stack Mariners?
What? No.
Yeah, neither do I. I have them dead last. I mean, this is not a game for offense either direction, unless you're trying to get on the opposite side of some of this pitching, just because there's ownership coming in. And like It's not like the Rays and the Mariners don't have talented bats, but this is not the game you go to for offense.
Yeah, I would go to Tampa Bay first for sure. They're the better offense, and they are at least facing the guy who has 10 total career appearances above the AA level as opposed to facing McClanahan.
Sum it up. What are your favorite stacks for today?
I mean, Tigers, but ownership is problematic there. I like the Dodgers. I like the Braves. I like Colorado, assuming their ownership doesn't skyrocket. I like Texas. Angels.
Yeah, we're on the same page there. Favorite pitching?
Peralta, Gray, McClanahan, if you can afford it.
Yeah, McClanahan, Peralta. I like Tanner Banks. We'll see where that ends up. Guys, thank you for joining us. We made it through Friday. Appreciate having you guys. Adam will have an MLB Sims video out in a bit. I'll have my contenders videos out in a bit as well. Plenty of other things to go check out. Thank you for being here. Thanks to Prize Picks. Thanks to Jordan. We're out of here. Peace.